Everyone, and good evening, everyone, and good morning to those who are on the other side of the globe. Uh, Welcome to IRMAn Talks. This series has been initiated by IRMA Alumni Association about 3 years back, and it has been probably one of the longest running activities of the IRMA Alumni Association, along with the health insurance. You all are a part of most of these activities now, so thank you for being there. And I would like to introduce the IRMAn Talks to you in a way that this is a platform that is very close to our hearts because we are able to know each other much better as to where we are, what we do, and what are the achievements that we've managed to accumulate throughout our professional and personal lives. And this is one repository that we are trying to make or build, which will help us evaluate not only the quantity as well as the quantity of IRMANs that are being available across the world. So once again, I welcome you all to this very, very exciting episode of IRMAn Talks. And I am going to introduce to you now the person who's going to interview our host for today. So let me introduce the interviewer to you, and then the interviewer will introduce the interviewee to you. Will that be okay? All right.
Sounds good.
So,
Fine.
okay, cool. So let me introduce Vipul Mittal to you. Vipul Mittal is from PRM 10, and currently he is the managing director of National Cooperative Organics Limited, which is set up as an umbrella organization for aggregation, procurement of organic products, as well as marketing, selling, branding, testing, everything. So it's a full end-to-end value chain activity concerning the organic products in India. And prior to joining the national cooperatives, Vipul was leading the agri-commodities business at Big Basket. We all must have been exposed to this particular brand, a very well-known brand, which was eventually bought by the Tata Enterprise. And there he led the Farmer Connect program as well and provided digital access, digital market access to about 45,000 plus farmers. So this is something really wonderful. And Vipul has an extremely deep understanding of the entire agriculture, horticulture, and dairy space in India. And he has helped several organizations build their supply chain, notably Big Basket, Bharti Walmart, Mother Dairy, etc. It's a very long introduction that I can really go on, but I'm going to tell you one very special part, which is that Vipul has attended the London School of Economics as a part of the coveted Chevening Gurukul program in 2008. And of course, he is from the 10th batch of IRMA. So he currently lives in Delhi and he has two daughters. Both are studying in Europe. So welcome, Vipul sir. Welcome to you. And I would like you to now please take us ahead in our journey today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Richie, for those kind words and the introduction. So let me take the privilege of introducing Vidhu. I have known Vidhu since 1989, which is almost like 35 years. Straight out of placement, Vidhu joined Sugam Dairy, which is nestled in the Baroda Dairy by a unit of NDDB, and he started his journey in sales and marketing. And his early days at the company were a trial by fire, I must say, as he faced the challenge of dealing with local politicians. In 1993, Vidhu transitioned to the corporate sector. He was one of the earliest people from our batch who moved out of the sector, as we used to call it then. And he was assigned to establish a trading business for his company in China. This opportunity gave him a first-hand view of China's transformation from a backwater to a modern economy. We are talking here 1993. As the country opened up to the world, Vidhu immersed himself in Chinese culture, gaining insights into the local psyche and the business practices while contemplating India's role amidst China's rapid development. His 4-year stint in China not only honed his business acumen, but also saw him mastering Chinese in sign language. Hopefully, we'll see some of it today. And discovering the vast gap between the authentic Chinese food and what passes off as Chinese food in India. Subsequently, Vidhu joined ICI, a leading chemical and pharmaceutical company in Chennai. So from China to Chennai, and where he revived their export business, culminating in the establishment of one of the world's largest bulk anesthesia export business. Around this time, Vidhu also started dabbling in meditation and mindfulness and trying to learn more about himself. His self-exploration led him to go to Vipassana retreats, where he honed his skills in self-awareness. We'll definitely hear more of it today. Driven by his passion for books, Vidhu transitioned to a medical publishing company where he pioneered award-winning software to revolutionize medical education in India. His innovation enabled medical colleges to reduce animal experiments, saving countless animal lives. Recognizing his contribution, he was relocated to the country, to company's Singapore office, and eventually leading to a move to the United States due to a company restructuring. Currently, he resides in the US with his wife and 2 grown-up sons. And Vidhu works at Thomson Reuters today at a prominent media software company. He manages the company's corporate development function. So over to you, Vidhu. I think this is quite a journey which you have had. And I wonder if way back in 1989 you made all these plans, and did you foresee where life will lead you? So my first question to you is that did you ever think where you would land in life, and did you plan all of this journey?
Okay, thank you, Vipul. First of all, for the kind words. Thank you, IRMA Alumni Talks, and thank you everyone who's joined for this session today. I know it's it's post Diwali, everybody is busy, so really grateful for taking this time out. When I passed out of IRMA, prior to IRMA, like many of us, I didn't have a lot of experience. I didn't have work experience, so really I didn't know what life holds for me. So essentially, when I was coming out of IRMA, I was looking for a sales and marketing job. Probably that was broadly what is clear in my mind, but where life is going to take me is not clear. And probably that was right, because really didn't know much about life, how life works. There was these idealistic views of how I'm going to be the steerer of my life, etc. But rightly so, life took its own course, as you just kind of explained, over the last 35 years. And I could not have, even if I wanted to, I could not have written this story at that point in time. So yeah, no clue about where I'm going to go.
So let me spill the beans here, Vidhu. I think Vidhu was one person who was very clear at the time of placement, and who could tell in the interviews to the interviewee that he would like to see life back 30 years thence and contribute something very meaningful. That's something I find difficult to forget, Vidhu, about you. So over to my next question. So how do you see the major segments in your life, Vidhu?
So it's really kind of divided into 3 parts. So so the first part was, of course, in the sector, and then from the sector I moved to the corporate world, and from the corporate world into the MNC world. And each of those sectors have been a defining time for me. I must say there's a lot of learning that I had, and there was a lot that shaped me into the person that I am. And one thing I can definitely say, if I look back 30 years, is that I've changed so much. I would potentially find it hard to say that I'm the same person that I was who passed out of IRMA. And those are all the influences that I gained. And I think we'll talk about these influences as we go through this discussion. But yeah, I've changed quite significantly in those 3. And I'm grateful that I was able to explore all these 3 segments in my life.
So Vidhu, I remember you had quite an experience when you worked in the sector in particular. And I think IRMAns would like to know more about, what happened and what did you learn while you were in Sugam Dairy for 2 years?
Yeah, so Sugam Dairy was quite an experience. So Sugam Dairy was nestled. It was an NEDB project which was inside Baroda Dairy. So it was kind of a hybrid management. And when I think about that period in my life, I think of Mike Tyson's quote that you have a strategy in your life till you get punched in the face. And, that's exactly what happened to me. I landed there, and along with me landed a politician in Baroda. And that politician wanted to take over my job. And because, one of the roles that I had was to allocate Sugam dairy outlets, retail outlets, which was considered to be very attractive. And so he was trying to take over my job. And so that was quite an experience, trying to ward him off, trying to hold on to my role, and and he kind of putting pressure on me. And then I quickly learned that more than market dynamics, it is power dynamics that you have to learn to be able to survive in an environment like that. So that was the first learning that I got there. The second was, Dr. Kurian was the chairman of Sukam Dairy, and once a year he would come, and we would have this meeting, and like a good leader, he would say, "Okay, does anybody have any ideas of how to improve business?" And I was 24 or 25 years old, so we're still in that idealistic phase, and so I put my hand up, and I told Dr. Kurian, I think we should launch water-based ice cream.
In the lollies, ice lollies.
Yeah, what is called dollies, I think, at that time.
Yeah. Okay.
And that didn't please him a lot. I got quite a lashing from him for that. So I was declared that I was unfit for the sector, and I was disloyal, etc., etc. So the second learning there was how to manage senior stakeholders, and you can't kind of just go and shoot yourself off whatever you feel is right. So lots of good experiences and a lot of learning that took place there, and that kind of has held me in good stead ever since then. So yeah.
So how did you manage this politician who was trying to take over your job in Sugam Dairy?
Yeah, it was quite an interesting experience, actually. So while the politician, he was putting a lot of pressure, and initially I was panicking. Yeah, right. So when I joined and when he came in and he was asking me for favors, initially I panicked and I said, "My God, what am I going to do here?" And then over time, I realized that the politician was a fairly intelligent person. And for him, intimidation was another tool in his toolkit that he was using to put pressure. And he was also observing me, and he was trying to figure out whether I really have conviction in my arguments, and whether I have the capacity to stand on my arguments. And so when he did see that I was kind of holding on to my arguments, I was pushing back, he accepted. I was smart enough not to push back on everything, because then, I would have definitely brought his wrath on me. But I gave some, I did not give some. And then over a period of time, he laid off. He said, "Yeah, this guy understands what he's doing. So, I can't take over his job." So yeah, it was an experience in human nature. It was also an experience of how do you deal with something which you are never prepared for in life. The first 24 years of your life, you're very nestled in your family. You're protected. You never get exposed to these kind of things, and boom, the first thing you do is deal with something like this, which you've never prepared yourself for. But I somehow navigated that.
What they don't teach you at IRMA.
What they don't teach you at IRMA. Exactly. The political economy of working in the sector is, I think, as important. So, yeah. So Vipul, in fact, you also, when you passed out of IRMA and you were in the sector, and you joined, I think, Federation at that point. So what is your experiences in the sector? How did you kind of, see the sector? How did that happen for you?
I thought I only had the job to ask questions.
No, I think it's more of you are a senior professional.
So Vidhu, I think I started in the Federation. So I think the environment was definitely far more sanitized, if I can use the word. And GCMMF, of course, is the poster boy of the sector from that perspective. So I think it was far well managed and far well, handled. So never had the kind of exciting experience which you had. But having said that, I think I had some very great experiences in my early career in GCMMF, and that's probably what kept me there for 15 years. And the key reason to that was that 1991 was the time when liberalization was kind of happening in India, and Federation was preparing itself to face the onslaught of the incoming competition, and there was an entrepreneurial leadership at the helm. So I'm referring to BM Vyas here, and he was the man who actually was in that mode of transforming that organization, and having a vision for that organization for the next 20 years, and carrying it forward in every which way. So for me, it was a very, very exciting journey which I had in GCMMF, and my understanding of the sector, especially the cooperatives, has been very different, a little idealistic though it may sound, but I feel that it has a very unique potential of delivering the benefits to a larger audience, the larger society, the more marginalized society, and that's what keeps me back into the cooperative sector as we talk. Yeah. So coming from there, let me hear more from you. You went off to the corporate world thereafter, and you started developing service as a strategy. That's what you said, right? So tell me more about that. Talk to the audience about how do you
Yeah.
develop service as a strategy.
Yeah, so it kind of evolved from my experiences. So I joined the corporate sector, and obviously it was much more structured, goal-oriented, resource-driven. But the corporate was also much more pressure-driven compared to the cooperative. And some of my key learnings took place there in that particular environment of very goal-oriented, but also very pressure-oriented. And some of my key learnings were that you have to be proactive in life. You can't be reactive in life. And the way to be proactive in life is to serve others. And let me kind of explain to you. It might sound a little bit of a religious philosophy, but it is not. It is, but it is also very practical. And let me explain to you what happened and how I kind of evolved into that. It's not something that I pre-read somewhere, or but I evolved into it. So so what was happening is, as I was working in the corporate sector, what I realized is I was mirroring other people's energies. So what was happening is that if somebody was good to me, I felt good. If somebody was not so good to me, I felt not so good. So my energies were kind of a reflection of other people's energies. And in a corporate sector, what happens is, when it's a very high pressure arena, a lot of people are not in a good mood. They're in a not such a good mood, and then you start reflecting their energies. And I kind of experienced that there's this low level of anxiety that I used to have all the time. And I said, what's happening with me here? Why do I have this low level of anxiety? Why am I not feeling excited about things? What's happening here? And then I kind of delved deeper into myself to try and understand that. And what emerged was that I didn't really have a plan of life. I didn't have a goal of life. I didn't have an action plan of life. How I'm going to get to that particular goal. And that was the reason that I was being more reactive to everyone. I was so what I started doing is building a goal and an action plan for life, and saying, okay, so what is it that I'm trying to achieve, and how am I going to achieve that? And I started putting that in place. And for some time, what it did is that it kind of reduced the levels of anxiety that I had and the stress that I was experiencing. But then it came back after some time, and I was a little surprised as to what happened. Why did that go away and then come back? And and so I kind of started delving deeper, and I realized that the problem was that the goals that I had set for myself, sometimes I achieved those goals and I felt very good about it. And sometimes I did not achieve those goals and I did not feel so good about it. And again, this whole goal orientation was driving this feedback loop inside me of, making me feel good or not feel so good about things. And I said, well, this doesn't work, because it's, while I have moved away from being reactive, I still have feeling, almost the same as I used to feel before. So what's happening here? So what's kind of the way out of this? And around that time, I came across this line in the Gita, in Bhagavad Gita, which says that you have a right over your actions. You have no right over the results of your actions. And that resonated with me. That struck me as being where I was going wrong. But I was so attached to the results of my actions. And when they went well, they kind of created that sense of energy in me, and when they didn't go so well, they did not create that energy. And I said, okay, so this whole attachment to my results is what is driving this. And that's where I evolved into saying, okay, the results that I'm going to work towards are not results focused on me, but these results should be focused on serving other people. And that kind of creates this whole sense of being objective in your in your life, rather than being subjective. Rather than being focused on yourself, you're now focused on others, you're working towards others, and that creates a sense of distance between the results and yourself, and makes it slightly more easy for you to start navigating life. And that's where I developed this whole and evolved into this whole service as a strategy for life.
So is this ego which was causing all this anxiety, Vidhu? Can we say that?
Yeah, I would say that it was, because this whole sense of the results that I was working towards were, what does those results do for me? What does it do for my career? What does it do for my money? How does it make me feel? What does it do for my image in the organization, etc., etc.? How do I manipulate my boss, my coworker? So it was extremely ego driven, I think, now that I look back. And what I also realized is that the ego comes to you twice. When you set a result for yourself, the ego creates anxiety in you. Whether will I be able to get my results? Will I fail in my results? Will I succeed in my results? And once you get the results, then or not get them, if you fail in the results, then you have anxiety because you have failed. And if you get the result, then you have anxiety whether I'll be able to hold on to my results. So this whole ego-driven life that I was leading was causing this whole feedback loop of creating this anxiety and stress inside me. And I realized that I have to break away from it. And the breaking away from that was basically taking the goals away from being focused on myself to being focused on others.
Give an example, Vidhu, of this whole reactive to the service as a strategy that you adopted.
So yeah, so I joined a company called ICI. It was an old British company, one of those companies who had been around in India forever. And mostly they had lost their way, they were no longer competitive. I joined the company, I was asked to set up an export division. And pretty much very soon I realized, oh my God, this company does not have a competitive advantage. So, how do you compete with all these agile Indian companies in the market? What are the kind of strategies that you can have to compete with them? And initially, my view was, I don't think that this is going to be a success, because I just can't see any factor that will help me. And then I kind of reframed myself. I said, the problem is that I'm looking at it all from a very wrong perspective. I'm looking at it from my perspective. What will this do for me? Will I be successful? Will I be able to deliver what has been asked for me? What will my organization say, etc.? I said, let me change the way that I kind of think about it. And the way that I changed it was, how do I serve the company? And you would not believe it, Vipul, but I'm telling you the fact that when I changed that framing of what am I working towards? Am I working towards settling towards success for myself, or am I working towards success of the organization? It changed the framework, and it changed all the strategies that I could actually deploy. And I got access to strategies that I did not ever think existed when I just changed the framing of what am I trying to achieve here. And that was a good success for me in my career. One of the highlights of my career was that I was able to take something which did not seem at the initial stages to be a very successful setup, turn it into a success just because I changed the framing of what am I working towards? What is the goal that I'm working towards?
So did you also encounter some unsuccessful experiences with you, and how did you handle them while focusing on this strategy?
Yeah, so I did, and there were instances where I was focusing on serving others, and not necessarily I was successful. I was also unsuccessful. And what I realized is that the whole unsuccessful part is really focused on the ego again. So it's not about the loss or the unsuccessful part. It is I lost, or I failed. So that I is the part that actually drives the feeling of being unsuccessful. Now, when you start setting up your framework or your goals and saying that I'm serving others, you're able to eliminate that I part out of it. It's no longer I failed. It's fail. The failure did take place. I was working towards it, but it didn't happen. So there was a failure. There was no I in it. And once that happens, then you have this capacity to be able to to distance yourself from the results of what has happened, and be able to look at it in a more impartial and a more objective and a clinical fashion, to say, okay, this was the goal. Was there something wrong with the goal that I set for myself? These are the actions that I decided. Did I miss on the action somewhere? What needs to change? Do the actions need to change? Do the goals need to change? The other thing that you realize is that the results are not fully in your control, right? Any result, right? So any result is the culmination of many things happening in the universe. So you have a part of it. So you probably contribute a sliver to the final goal. There are many things that are happening simultaneously, and the results that you see at the end of it is partly your effort and partly of what's happening around you. And that kind of an insight you start gaining once you start separating the final goal from yourself, is that yes, I put the effort, the goals were right, I still didn't get it, that's fine, because there were many reasons that I did not get it. You may decide to try again, you may decide to put in more effort, or you may just decide to move away from that particular goal altogether. So I was able to separate myself personally and emotionally from the activities that I was doing, and not get so overwhelmed with everything that was happening and taking everything on myself to say, oh my God, you failed, I did not somehow. And then the other problem is that once something like this happens, we draw a line from there, say, oh, I failed, that means in my career I'm going to fail, or in my life I'm going to fail, or I succeed, oh my God, I'm God's gift to the world, so I'm going to succeed. So all that separation starts taking place from you and the failures and the results that are taking place. You then treat failures and result as another thing that's happening in your life.
So Vidhu, where does money fall into this equation when you say, the strategy is to serve others? So does it, yeah, so how does money play a role here? Does it get impacted? What's your take on this?
Yeah, so money is a very interesting concept. And again, that's something, and Vipul, we were also discussing about that, how you look at it. So money is a very...
I'm an outlier.
Yeah?
I said I'm an outlier on that part.
So, money is a very interesting concept, because eventually you realize that money is a proxy to quantify your successes. And when you look at money as, okay, I was very successful. If I got a lot of money, I was very successful. If I didn't get enough money, I was not successful. So it becomes a proxy. And the more that you are involved in this whole I thing and this ego thing, the more this money becomes important for you. My experience has been is that if you are focused on serving others, you get access to a lot of strategies in your life that you didn't know existed. I have experienced more success than failures because of that. And money has come out as a consequence of that. So I have gained, rewards because of the successes I got, because of the fact that I was reframing my goals away from myself to that. So for me, money is not the number one thing. Money is a consequence of the effort that I'm putting in, and they come in because you have reframed yourself and you're working towards others. Chances of success are higher, and hence chances of money are higher. But starting off with money is always a very, very ego-driven kind of endeavor. That's my experience. And so, Vipul, just before we go forward, and I kind of alluded to this, you have also had a very interesting relationship with money, always. And do talk a little bit about that.
You're not sounding as if I have enough or more of it, but yeah, that's true. So Vidhu, I would agree with you that money becomes a very easy denominator to measure everything around us. When you say success, failure, everybody talks in this language of money, and I think that's what it is, number one. But to me, more importantly, I think if money becomes the goal, then you actually lose the goal. So my learning or experience has been that in all our decision criteria, and I keep telling this to my kids as much as to the younger generation, that in all our decision criteria, probably we should bring the angle of money in the end. Because if you bring it in the beginning, then it's such an easy denominator that it kind of tilts the balance sometimes in favor of a wrong decision. So that's my take on money. And second is that money is more like a mental accounting in our minds, because we don't. So there is a value attached to everything that we spend the money on, and that seldom changes irrespective of how much we have. So I think money is important. Nobody is saying no, but there are ways and means of meeting those requirements. One could be by increasing the savings, another could be by increasing the earnings. So it all depends on how
Yeah.
you look at money, and how you tackle that. Having said that, Vidhu, back to you. So
Mhm.
you then delved deep into meditation, and explored the ability to manage stress, and also got you deeper introspection, and try to see yourself as a personality, and discover, oblique rediscover yourself. So tell us
Yeah.
more about that.
Yeah. So I think as I started getting deeper into myself, I also realized that I really know myself skin deep, right? I don't know that much about myself. And I was kind of, and I didn't know meditation at that point in time. I didn't know how to understand myself. I didn't know how to kind of, map myself. And so it was, I think it was one of those fortunate incidents in life that I was, working in a company, and there was this medical director, and he took a liking for me, and he introduced me to meditation, and he introduced me to a form of meditation called vipassana. And vipassana has been for me a great thing, because it really helped me to start mapping myself and understanding what's really happening inside me. Where are these things coming from? This whole need to to be whatever, to reflect other people's energies, to be liked, to be being seen in a particular light, etc. What's actually driving all of this? Where is it coming from? And vipassana really helped me to do that. It was, for me, it was quite a revolutionary event in my life once I started doing meditation. Yeah.
So tell me more about this, your experience of this meditation, and how did you apply it to your daily life, Vidhu?
Yeah. So I started doing vipassana meditation. Now meditation is, I think, hard as nails. It sounds easy. Really, meditation is, you're sitting and focusing on your breath or reactions that are happening in your body. But actually, when you start doing it for 14 hours a day for 10 days, it's really hard. And Vipul, you have done it, so I'm sure that you can second me on that one. But what it did is that I started understanding myself much better. And what I realized is that I have this huge need for control. And, and deep somewhere, and I don't know where it came from, but at least, there was this huge need for control. And what that did was that it made me try to, it kept me in my future and my past. So what I mean when I say that is, I was trying to control my future, and I was always thinking of the past, and I was never in the present, because I wanted to control both of those things, both the past and the future. And because of that, I was not spending time in the present. I was not being present in the present, and I was not kind of really doing things in the present. And that was a huge revolutionary insight for me, because then I kind of figured out as to where things are coming from. When I'm trying to control my future, I'm trying to, when I am in front of people and I'm trying to ensure that people like me, where does that come from? And that really comes from my need to control my future. That, if people like me, then that'll lead to certain consequences which will be positive for me. So all those things started opening up, and I started to connect the dots of how I behave, and where is that behavior really emanating from. And obviously, mapping it is one thing, but then trying to do something about it is a completely different thing. But at least I started understanding why I behave the way that I behave.
And how did it impact your professional life, Vidhu? This whole
So
meditative.
I think that once I kind of understood about myself and my reactive personality, I started becoming less stressed out and more chilled out. And I'm sure that people around me started feeling it. My family started feeling it. Most importantly, my colleagues must have started feeling that. Just the fact that if you're sitting in a meeting, and a lot of times you would be hearing what people are saying, but after some times you stop hearing what people are saying, you start formulating your response to that. And that used to happen all the time with me. So 2 minutes into a meeting, I was, what this guy is saying is wrong. I don't think he understands it, and I know something better, and this is how I'm going to respond to this particular person, so on and so forth. So this whole, mental discussion starts off. And what it did was help me to catch it early, as I started doing these kind of things, that you are not in the present, you're actually getting into the future. As when this person stops speaking, what am I going to respond to that person? So you started preparing yourself for the future, not listening to what that person is saying now. And all those things started changing for me, because I kind of started realizing that this is really what's happening. So Vipul, you have been a meditator yourself, and you did Vipassana meditation as well. So how's been your experience, and how did that work out for you?
Okay, so Vidhu, in my case, actually, you summarized it pretty well in terms of the the usefulness, oblique the benefits which came out of this very intense program, which I also happened to have attended in 2014. But in my case, actually, this whole quest and journey started much earlier. I was introduced to the religion by my mother, to Jainism by my mother, and I start with religion because religion actually becomes very dogmatic, a little more narrow, segmented, uh, and then it is always confused with spirituality and meditation. So I see that as a continuum in some ways, and my journey, as I said, started there. It continued during our IRMA days also. Jain was actually much more, serious meditator, if I may say, because some of these religions are actually based on meditation rather than on other kinds of, practices. But then, for me, there were a lot of unanswered questions, honestly. Incidentally, when we were going through this change management at GCMMF, BMVS introduced us to this program Brahma Kumaris. Then Sanjay Panigrahi used to be very passionate about Sri Ramachandra mission, so I got exposed to that through him. You introduced me to Landmark, so did Pratima, and so it was a continuum of lot of practices, and of course you have the Sri Shris and the other all kinds of practices, and all of them I could see some kind of a common basis to all of them. But I had a few questions in my mind which were not getting resolved, and I'll tell you what those questions were. First and foremost, I was like, if it's a universal truth, if it is a universal knowledge, if it's a universal thing, then why are there so many sectarian breakups of it? Why can't all of them come together and say, okay, let's agree to this one universal practice, right? The second one was that it should be open to all, right? Why sectarian? And second is, why should there be an involvement of money? Why should there be some kind of a money attached to any of these practices or programs? And the third was that the benefit should be something which is measurable and which is, to a scientific mind, which should be something which you can quantify. And in some ways, the Vipassana experience actually answered all three to me. So Vipassana is non-sectarian. It allows anybody and everybody to come there. There is no photograph. There is no murti. There is nothing, and it is free of cost, right? And more importantly, and most importantly to me, it actually answered the how part of relieving or realizing yourself and potentially addressing your stress levels. So this how part is something which is so scientifically designed there and very practically designed, and one can see it. Let me not say that I'm there. I'm still on this journey, and maybe behind many of us. But then the path is very clearly laid out. So that was some very phenomenal experience I had during this practice. Secondly, I could also quantify the benefits which can potentially come out of this practice. And like you rightly said, one is of course the mindfulness and the mental health, which it solves in a very, very practical and magical way, if I may say. Second is, of course, the health, because there are so many psychosomatic diseases which we grapple with nowadays. And I think all those diseases have the potential of going away just by sheer mental practice, meditation. And then, of course, is the spiritual side of it, which potentially, leads to you to many, many more levels of understanding our own, human body and psyche, which I think I don't, at least I must admit. So I think, that's been a phenomenal journey for me, and it continues. And so actually, when I came out of it first time, it was like, when you go and see a good movie, what do? You come back and tell all your friends, you go and see it. You tell your family, you go and see it. And, I was virtually in that mode till somebody said, yeah, please stop it. I mean, you are sounding more like a like a salesman here than somebody who has benefited. So I just shut. I think you opened me today, so I just shut after that. But I think yes, it's something which I have seen and practiced, and I hope that more and more people are able to benefit like you have from there. But moving back to you, Vidhu, you keep deflecting it to me. So so let me ask you. See, you have been through multiple cultures. You've been in India, you've worked in Singapore, now you're in US. So how do you compare these cultural differences which you see, for example, between India and Singapore, especially if you talk of the matrix of service? So would you have some examples to share?
Yeah. So I think service is one area that the very fact that I kind of use that as a strategy in life and a framework. And I would compare a lot of cultures across the metrics of service. And what I found is that, and I'm not kind of trying to say that one is better or the other, but it's just, how different societies have evolved because of a variety of reasons. And those variety of reasons could be some are developing, some are developed. So they're in the different levels in their journey. But I think to some extent in India, we are on the journey of moving towards service, but we are still pretty focused on being focused on the the ego part of it. So the journey on the service part is, slowly as we are improving as a society and improving as a country and becoming richer, we are moving towards that mode as well, where we are less focused on but more focused on service. But still, we have some distance to go, I would say. In Singapore and in the US, because of where they are in their stage of development, I think they are past that need for everything to be related to me. And I did see so, and I'm talking about societies. I'm not talking about corporations. Corporations are, they beat to a different thing. But I'm talking about normal societies, people who live in these countries. That the culture of service is there, and culture of service is pretty strong there. And you can see it in the way that they behave, how they behave with other human beings, the way that, they're willing to give space to others. You see that happening. So I think that in the realm of service, India is slowly moving toward that. But it will reach there for sure, because service as a culture, service as a civilizational idea is very strong in India compared to most other countries. They have evolved into that, but India already has that as our root civilizational thought. And I believe that India, as we start sorting our issues out and poverty and other things, and I'm sure that we will be getting there pretty fast. So that is kind of my experience.
That's a very profound statement you make, Vidhu. Yeah, India has edge as far as service as a culture is concerned.
Yeah.
And
if you look at, just to kind of add to that, if you look at it, I don't think anywhere in the world somebody would have thought of something like the langar that happens in India, right? Now, if you think of it from a very conceptual point of view, 500 or 600 years back, the gurus said that everybody is entitled to free food, right? And it's a revolutionary thought. If you just think of it, even today, if somebody was to stand up and say, one of the political leaders was to stand up and say, everybody's entitled to free food and we will guarantee it, it'll be revolutionary. But they did that 500 years back. So that comes from that root of serving others, that they decided that we will fold a langar and we will organize it, and we don't know where it's going to come from, where the money is going to come from, how we're going to organize it, who's going to cook the food, but we will still deliver it. And that comes from a very core sense of being service oriented. Or even Vipassana, where you said rightly that it's free of cost. Now, if you look at the organization, this is an organization that spans the world. There are hundreds of locations that they have, and it's all free of cost. And organizing that and getting the money and doing all that is fairly complex, but it comes from that root of service. And I think India has that root very deeply embedded in its psyche.
So, Vidhu, you also have served, the sector, the corporate, and the MNCs. How do you compare your experiences with these three when it comes to maybe fulfilling the societal goals and and achieving development?
So I think, and I would invite you to also comment on it, is that the societal goals, my experience was that the stakeholder is the key person who drives the delivery towards societal goals. So even when I was in Baroda Dairy and all the shenanigans that took place there, despite that, 30 years back, Baroda Dairy used to sell 1.65 lakh liters of milk a day, and which is huge. They were paying the highest price to their farmers compared to all the dairies in Gujarat. And you can imagine that despite everything that was happening, they were still serving their core stakeholder, which was the farmer who owned that particular organization. So I would say that the core stakeholder is the key driver of how any organization achieves its societal goals. Now, if I think of, I went to the corporate sector, it was owned by a promoter, and they had a vision, and they were entrepreneurs, and they were willing to make bets. They made a bet on me, and all that stuff. And they played a very key role in achieving society's goal or India's goals at that time, because India needed to create wealth. And these were the entrepreneurs that were creating wealth, and they were kind of building it through their entrepreneurial skills. And I would say, because they were at the helm of it, they could take whatever decisions they wanted to take. They took the risks, they bet on people, and all that stuff happened. And if I look at the MNCs are owned by insurance funds and hedge funds and all those people, and they are fairly removed from various things. They work in cycles of 3 months. So they have to look at 3 monthly results, because that's kind of what drives their share prices. And the organization is then aligned to their particular needs. So the organization is also in the short-termism kind of a mindset of, ensuring that the 3 monthly results look good, and lots of time. And, probably a classic example is Boeing today, which is in such a bad shape just because, it kind of lost itself, what is the goal of the organization, and got itself too fixated on getting those 3 month results. So I would say all these societal goals achievement are driven by the stakeholders, the key stakeholder, and what do they want, and then everybody kind of aligns to that. And I would welcome your thoughts on that as well.
So, Vidhu, I concur with your observations, but my cuts have been twofold here. So one is, I have felt that so we always, or often we feel that the cooperatives or the sector is more bureaucratic as compared to maybe an MNC oblique a private, but I think my experience says it otherwise. So to me, bureaucracy is a function of the size of the organization rather than the nature of the organization. So it has nothing to do with the ownership. It is more to do with the size. So I've seen MNC being very, very bureaucratic, and like you say, very focused on short-term goals, potentially because they've already created a business model, and that's why you find them often waning when the business cycles change, because they are not able to adapt to those changes given the structure they get into. That's one. Second, I think the way I see cooperatives is that they have, by nature or by definition, a huge potential to deliver, because this is one framework where the stakeholder and the shareholders are the same. So it has a potential to unlock some additional value for the stakeholders, which are in case of, for example, the agricultural cooperatives in India, more of marginalized and small farmers, and of course for the consumers. And we of course have Amul as the leading example there, and many more can follow. And I think, what is very heartening to see, Vidhu, around us is that now with this new Ministry of Cooperation being formed by the government, I think they are now focused on the improving the governance part of the cooperatives. Because you would recall during our times, I think the whole challenge was that these cooperatives had the ability to become fiefdoms of some political interest, and then lose focus on what they were supposed to deliver. And I think that's where a lot of changes are in the offing, they are happening. And having said that, governance becomes an issue even in the private sector, even in the MNCs, and we have seen all kinds of examples there as well. I think all the sectors have the potential to deliver value, but I see the potential to redistribute wealth is maximum with the cooperatives, is what I feel, and potentially that's what brings me back to that sector at the end of my career. And another point, Vidhu, I'll make with your permission here, is that to me, leadership has always been the key, So I have been fortunate to work with a very entrepreneurial leader in the beginning of my career in Amul, Mr. Vyas, and I had a equal great opportunity to work with an entrepreneur who's a leader, which is in Big Basket, So I think I have seen, and in between I have seen other leaders as well. So I can safely relate that the success failure, so-called, of an organization is actually a lot dependent on the leadership than otherwise. So Yeah. So that's where we are, Vidhu. So now you tell me, Vidhu, how do you contextualize success and failure in your life?
Okay, so I think success and failure are probably, to me, are kind of they're milestones in your life. So these are, so there's a universe which is playing itself out, and success and failures are those milestones in that universe. And to me, getting yourself emotionally connected too deeply with success or failure is not a great idea, because most cases, like I said, you have very little control on the success and failure. You have some control. I'm not saying that they happen on their own and you shouldn't do anything. Obviously, if you don't do anything, you will always get failure. They'll got nothing else. What is in your control is the effort that you put in, the goals that you set for yourself, and work towards that. But the success and failure is driven by many things which are beyond your control. And so contextualizing success and failure in that framework is important to my mind, because it frees you from this whole grip of saying, oh my God, if I have not achieved it, I've been a failure. And if I have achieved it, I'm on top of the world. Either both of those are kind of not correct. Both of them, you take ownership for something that you don't really have an ownership. For example, let's say, and I'm just making up this example. Let's say your boss says something, and now you feel, oh my God, I have not been able to do the right thing, impress him. He thinks badly about me, etc., etc. But the reality maybe is that because he comes from a family which is a broken family. He's had a bad day. Start of the morning. He may have got a news which is not good. It may have nothing to do with you. It may have so little to do with you, but we kind of personalize everything. And so for me, the success and failure has to be depersonalized. It has to be seen as a scientist looks at something and says, okay, this has happened. Why did it happen? What can be done to fix it? If you can fix it, great, fix it. If you cannot fix it, fine. That's happened. That just another event that's happened in your broader life. So to me, it's important, and it's easy to say it. Let me be also clear about that. It's it sounds easy, but it's very hard, because success and failures have real results, real impacts on life, money, or whatever else. But the fact is that that success and failure have to be looked at from a very objective fashion, as that this event has taken place. This event has taken place not entirely because of me, but because of thousands of factors that I have no control over. Is there something that I can do to improve the outcome? Was my goals right? And if you can fix it, fix it. If you cannot fix it, then move on. So that's the way that I try and contextualize success and failure.
Any final remarks, Vidhu?
So yeah, I'll kind of just as a closing for remarks, I would say that, and I think there are just 4 minutes left in any case. So the final remarks would be that I would urge everyone to think of service as a strategy in life. And my experiences have been good. I have felt much more calmer, peaceful. I have seen more success also since I changed the framework from being focused on myself to being focused on others. It also gives you a more sense of responsibility when you're trying to help others become successful. So you become a more responsible person as well. And enjoy life. I would say that if all the managers and everybody who's here, they've reached here, they will reach their end. So don't be anxious about that part of it, that what's going to happen, am I going to retire with enough money, or what's going to happen at the end of it, will my children settle down, not settle? Everything will happen. Things happen. So don't get too fixated on things. Don't get emotionally involved in too many successes and failures. Enjoy this journey that's taking place right now in front of. Enjoy every day, enjoy every moment, enjoy everything that's happening. That's kind of where I would say.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Vidhu.
Thank you.
And I'm sure the young managers are going to take some learnings out of this place. Yeah, I think Jen had some point in the chat box. He wanted to know your experiences in Barabanki. So you want to recall something?
I would keep that under wraps right now.
Vipul, it has to be repeated verbatim. Okay.
Okay.
IRMA might decide to revoke my degree if they.
So I am hoping that Vidhu will give credit of his life journey transformation to his IRMA MTS in Barabanki, UP, with you. हाँ, आगे ठहरिए, मधुशाला यही है.
मधुशाला यही है. So that is quite an experience.
So Vidhu, you may like to conclude by telling some jokes about your Lucknow University days.
Maybe they are not appropriate for this. I have lots of them, but yeah, at this point.
आपको लखनऊ हाउ लगा?
आपको लखनऊ हाउ लगा? That was a very different experience altogether.
Fantastic. Thank you. Jen, over to you.
No, बढ़िया यार. I really enjoyed, and I loved the way Vidhu quizzed Vipul. So it was good fun, and we got 2 sessions at the price of 1. तो पैसा ज़्यादा हुआ. Good. Nice. Very informative and a good session, Vidhu. All the best to you, and आपको भी मिले थे हम लोग, so I'm sure Vidhu drove all the way down from Pennsylvania to meet me in New Jersey. And so nice of him to have done so. Vidhu, तुम इंडिया आने वाले थे, ऐसा बता रहे थे दिसंबर में.
हाँ,
और तुम सबको अभी इनविटेशन दे दो ना. बाबा विधु का जर्नी. मैं तो I was waiting for the next big thing in life which you wanted to announce.
That is the Republic Day.
नहीं सुनो यार विपुल. अरे नहीं यार, हमारी जो बात हुई है, Vidhu has to tell, no? Vidhu has bought a piece of land at Hardwar, Vidhu, right?
I did finally. I did not.
That's a sore point.
सुनो, 25 देखो विधु, 26 लोग हैं यहाँ पे, एक तुम, बाकी के हम 25. ओके, तो हम हमारे बाबा कैसे हो, विधु बाबा जैसे हो, हम लोग आपको करेंगे दिल्ली एयरपोर्ट, बॉम्बे एयरपोर्ट, जहां भी तुम आओ, और हम साथ चलेंगे ताकि हमारे को एक क्या बोलते हैं, भजन कीर्तन स्थान मिल जाए.
भजन कीर्तन मंडली बनाएंगे वहीं पर.
बिल्कुल. Please share about some of your spiritual plans.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, over to Richie and Ritesh.
Yeah,
I think this was a great session. Thank you, Vipul. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And Richie, you're on mute.
Yeah, I would like to ask if there are any more questions to Vidhu sir or Vipul sir.
Okay.
All right.
Must have been very clear. Vipul and I must have been very clear.
I would definitely like to
रिची
say
को पता
that.
नहीं है, हमको समझने में एक आध साल लगेगा. इतनी भारी बातें किए. ठीक है, तो अगले साल आप जब सेशन करोगे तब हम पूछेंगे, अच्छा विपुल क्या पूछा था तुमने.
I'm sure, absolutely, because it appeared very simple when we were listening to it, but I'm sure it is so deep that it will take a lifetime to really figure out what it really means. Yes,
Hi, Gautami.
Hi, Gautami.
Hi, Gautami.
Hi, Gautami.
At least this way I got to interact with both of you after a long time. Fascinating conversation. Thank you so much, Vipul and Vidhu. Is this what you were discussing in the last row in IRMA classes?
The backbenchers. The backbenchers of IRMA class. We weren't that evolved, Gautami, at that time. We were kind of trying to, get our grades and pass the class somehow.
Nice to see you, Gautami, after so many years.
Likewise, Vipul. I should connect back with you guys.
Yes.
Hi, Jen.
Hi. So, Saal Mubarak to all. Thank you so much, and fantastic session.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you,
So
Jen.
if we do not have any further questions, I would like to do the honors. I would like to thank Vidhu sir and Vipul sir for taking us through this deep dive journey of life today. And of course, I didn't expect this kind of a conversation today. I was thinking he will talk about AI, or he's going to talk about some technical stuff that his organization is doing. And he has learned some new stuff at Harvard or IRMA. So after IRMA, he's learned something new at Harvard. So maybe he would like to share that. But this was, I think, Vidhu sir and Vipul sir, both of you, thank you so much, because this is something that really means a lot in today's times, because we as the younger ones to y'all, we are pretty young to y'all, and we are running so much after success. And of course, we define success with the word that you mentioned, the denominator. But yes, it really makes a lot of difference because once we realize that there is much more to success, and how to circumvent the stress and the challenges that life throws at us, it makes a lot of sense. I really wish and hope that a lot of more youngsters would go through this session. I would like to, I think Ritesh and I, we would try to propagate this much more to the younger ones, because I really feel that we should have learned this 10, 20 years back when we were so younger, much younger. But yes, it's never late now also. Thank you so much for bringing this up. And I would like to thank all my colleagues, all my friends for joining in today's talk. And also, I would like to thank the IRMA Alumni Association and the Executive Committee for their wholehearted support for this talk series. Thank you, everyone. And thank you. Look forward to seeing you, Vidhu sir, when you're in India. Please do let us know. We would run and come to see you.
Thank you very much.
And Vipul sir, also, if you happen to be in Delhi and anywhere in India, please let us know. We'll be also happy to meet you, Vipul sir.
We'll be receiving Vidhu at the airport.
But he doesn't meet you, Jain sir. So you have
No,
to.
नहीं, कहाँ time देते हैं? He's between the number 1 and 2 in Delhi, that we are somewhere lost in Anand. We just catch him on news and stage programs and all that.
Ma'am, there is a question in chat by Lokendra.
Oh,
Bye, everyone.
okay. All right. So okay. So Vidhu sir, would you like to take this question? Although we've wrapped it up, but I think there is a question. Could you discuss the current hot topic at IRMA, the debate between development and corporate sectors in terms of working as an employee? This is PRM 44, Lokender Singh. So one of the latest batches.
Okay,
Freshly
I'm
out
not
of the
sure
oven.
what this debate is about. So I does probably Vipul, do you know what the debate is about?
This debate must be since our time, Vidhu. I think this debate goes on every time. No, I'm not.
Oh,
I'm not
okay.
aware if there is anything new about this debate. I mean, I'm saying Lokender must be mentioning it, that how do you choose between the two, right? So I think
Okay,
this
okay.
has always been the debate. So
Yeah, and please, everybody is free to comment on it. My view is that no one thing is right or wrong or good or bad or whatever. Whatever resonates with you, I would strongly suggest follow that, and it depends on what is it that you're trying to achieve in life. And it's a bit of a hard thing, cart before the horse, because what you're trying to achieve in life is still evolving. You're kind of figuring it out. But what feels good inside is important. So what is resonating inside, what are you feeling good about, and I have learned, and I've learned it in the 30 years that I have since passed, is that money will come. So don't get too hung up on the money part of it. As long as you are creating value, you're serving others, you're helping others, money will happen, or at least enough money will happen to take good care of you. So don't get stuck on the money part of it. Just see that what's resonating with you. If the sector is resonating with you, please, by all means, stay there, serve people, help people. You will get results. That's been I'm saying it from my experience. If it does not, then yes, corporate is the alternative. Vipul or anyone else, please.
No, I think you put it very well, Vidhu. I think what resonates with you is important. And of course, if you can get the taste on both the sides, then you can take your own decisions later in life.
Yeah,
so that's also true. Yeah, because at the end of the day, you will find that there is very little subtle difference between what we call as sector and otherwise. Mostly, as I said, money becomes the only criteria, and that's why if you keep it out of the equation, then you will find that differences are very, very blurred. So what resonates, I think, will count. So.
Okay, great. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for sparing out time today evening over an extended long weekend. And I look forward to hosting you all in the upcoming other IRMAN talks. Thank you so much, and have a great evening and have a great day, those who are on the other side of the globe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richi.
Bye, Vidhu.
Thanks.
Bye,
Bye,
Mittal
Vidhu.
sir.
Thank you,
Bye.
Ritesh.
Bye, Mithal sir.
Bye.